Hello and welcome to another episode of the It's Not Orange podcast, and of course our first live show. Today we'll be reviewing the Exeter City game as Steve Bruce gets his tenure off to a winning start. Joining me this evening is my co-host Martin. How you doing, buddy?
I'm good. This is exciting, isn't it?
Yeah,
we can't hide behind the edit button anymore. We're here. This is it. This is real folks. Yeah, absolutely. Buzzing after Saturday. Buzzing after Saturday.
Yes, mate. It's good to enjoy football again on a Sunday and maybe watch the highlights back a few times, knowing we actually win a game and not concede in the last minute, of course. Pal is also with us this evening. How you doing, mate?
I'm very good, thank you, mate. Looking forward to this. A bit of something new, isn't it?
Yes, mate. Yeah.
It's been a while. Pretty face as well.
A popular demand. Very slender face, mate. You're doing really well, sir. And James is kindly joined us this evening from the Patreon group. How you doing, buddy?
I'm good. Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, you're most welcome. Please get your comments, likes, thoughts in as we talk about everything on the podcast. Of course. Good evening, Andy. Good evening, Richard. Good evening, Tony. And good evening, everyone in the comments as well. But before we start the actual podcast, Martin is going to kick us off with a little bit of a tribute towards Rodders, who sadly passed away last week. So I'll hand it over to you, mate.
Yeah. On Friday night, I was just sort of just watching the TV, and I noticed on AVFTT there was a bit of a mention of Big Rod, and I just had to sort of do a double take, and I was absolutely gutted, like a lot of Blackpool fans were, to find that poor Rodri Davis had left us very suddenly. A lot of people knew Rod. He was really, really popular home and away. Went to every game. Blackpool FC was his life. I was lucky enough to go to sixth form college with Rod. I first met him in about 1991, and he was there for a couple of years, 2 or 3 years, like I was. And he was just a lovely lad. Had a lot of adversity in his life. Didn't have an easy life by any means. But what he did was he lived life to the full, and he absolutely loved Blackpool FC. As I say, him and his mate Andy went everywhere together. They were in each other's pockets, inseparable, but always on those away coaches. I saw him at pretty much every home game because he sat 5 or 6 rows in front of me in the south. I only saw him weeks ago in the club shop. I think he was buying the new shirt or buying something, and I stopped and said hello to him. Sometimes I'd walk past him and he'd see me a mile off and come over to me and go, "All right, Martin, how's it going?" Just a lovely guy, and I know that so many people were touched by his passing, and the tribute by the club was absolutely amazing to have the tribute in the 50th minute. Just a very sad loss. It's this happens too often. Sadly, we lose fans, and these characters are totally irreplaceable. So I just wanted to say I miss you, Rod. You're a top lad. As I say, I've known you since I was a teenager. So I hope you're looking down. And you know what? That win on Saturday was for you, pal. So very much going to be missed.
Yeah, I'm sure he'll continue to watch over Blackpool from above. And as you say, it was a fan really driven for the power of social media, of course, pal, that the Muckers and a few others got together and put their heads together and said it would be great to applaud him in the 50th minute. And it was a fine tribute to him, and literally every side of the stadium got involved. And as you say, the tribute was there, and no one was off key with that. And I'm sure he would have heard that, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, Grimmy tweeted it. I think BSA tweeted it as well, because I know Rod has travelled with BSA quite a lot. So fair play to Grimmy and the Muckers for tweeting it, and BSA as well, and getting it off the ground. Obviously, special thanks as well to the Exeter fans, because they joined in with the applause. It was the whole end was clapping along, and I actually looked over as well, and the bench, both dugouts were both clapping along as well. So yeah, nice tribute to a very nice guy. He was a proper character and a big loss to the club.
Yeah, after watching it back, old Tomo as well, obviously ex-assistant Blackpool manager, said he was a character and he always used to make him laugh when he used to see him as well. So he clearly had a big impact on both the management team and fans and friends around him. So thanks for that, Martin, and thanks for all the tributes in the chats as well, saying RIP. So continue to watch over us. Moving on then, chaps, we can talk about a win finally, James, and it was obviously a very dramatic win, as Blackpool always bring to us the drama over the last few weeks in terms of goals scored, etc. But we're on this podcast smiling just due to the fact that we finally got a win. And of course, we started off with a completely sort of different system to what we've been used to under our previous permanent manager. We lined up with Tyra in goal, obviously one of the first changes to the league side. Gabriel Husband in a back four, left and right back, Casey and Afire at centre back, Norburn and Evans filling in the centre mids, Apter and Hamilton out wide. And Ballard, if Kurt's listening, maybe play just behind him, maybe just beside him. He said if I mention Ballard in the 10 again, he's probably going to unsubscribe from the podcast and never do a pod again. But Ballard was very busy in behind Joseph, and those front two worked really well. But James, just give us your thoughts on the lineup itself on Saturday.
Yeah, it was good, really refreshing, wasn't it? Like, we definitely needed something else, and we were sort of wondering all week, like, what is he just going to stick with the 3-5-2 because that's what we've been doing, or is he actually going to be bold and brave and do something that he thinks is going to work? And I think he did that. 4-4-2 is obviously a classic. I just think our squad fits 4-4-2 better. I think we can put out a really nice back four, and it's just better than the 3-5-2. So yeah, I was really pleased with it.
Paul, apart from potentially Coulson, I can't believe I'm saying this after we know what happened in the game. A Husband playing instead of Coulson, but he is our captain, and Bruce stuck to his guns and continued to play the club captain, of course. But the back four itself, Ofai obviously before the game was unknown. He very, very much made himself known in terms of his performance. But in terms of that back four, Bruce and the team clearly not scared to make any sort of amendments to traditionally what we played the likes of Pennington, etc. But it's a pretty solid back four considering we've got Elkin Baggett out and Pennington's on the bench to come in, Coulson's there, Ashworth to come in as well. So if you think about the defence with Tyra as a starter and of course O'Donnell as backup, we've actually got quite a good squad for longevity at the back, haven't we?
Yeah, I mean, when you saw it, it looked solid enough. Husband isn't, well, it doesn't look great, does he, in a back three, but as a left back or as a left-sided centre-back as a four, you can't really complain with him too much. I know his crossing isn't the best when he does get forward from left-back, but as an out-and-out defender and defending what's in front of him, more often than not, he gets the job done. A Fire coming in was maybe a bit of a surprise, but by the end of the game, he looks like a dead cert to start every game because he was outstanding, wasn't he? But no, I think 4-4-2, we've all been crying out for it. It's a simple formation. It's a simple league. It gets the job done. It gets results, and it suits his team. Obviously, Hamilton on the left, where he doesn't need to worry about coming in on his left foot, where he's not very good at doing it. Just let him run into space, let him run in straight lines like he's good at, and the results were there, weren't they? It speaks for itself with how we played.
Yeah, it was a pretty relentless start, which we'll come on to in a minute, Martin. But your final thoughts on the team itself? Do you sort of subscribe to the other two's thoughts, or do you have your own opinion on the 4-4-2 that we started with?
I was just delighted to see 4-4-2. It's such a simple formation. You know, who would have thought it would work, eh? Whatever next. Yeah, and I was a bit surprised maybe to not see Coulson play, but I guess he's had a bit of a knock, hasn't he? But overall, I was just delighted to see Tyra in goal. He looks the part, and just really happy with the formation. Just simple. Steve Bruce seems to keep football simple, and sometimes football is a simple game made complicated by certain people, I think.
The coaching badges, maybe. Pal, I'll come to you then. It was a pretty relentless start by Blackpool, and to be fairness, we've continued that tenure for a number of months now when we played in the League and Cup. In terms of the way we kicked off, the way we set the shape up, the wingers, and we'll come on to talk about the 4-4-2 system in a minute, but the wingers themselves, they stayed pretty high but worked with the press, and the front two were pretty relentless. So as an overall, the start itself was a perfect way to start the game against an Exeter side, which I thought set up fairly well, but at the same time, they would have been more comfortable if we didn't start in the way we did.
Yeah, I think the intent was obvious from the minute the whistle went, wasn't it? It looked like we just wanted to keep them pressed forward, and it looked like Bruce had done his homework and he knew that they weren't much good on the ball, especially when you got players like that left centre half that they had who looked like a pro clubs player with his stupid daft hair. He was just horrific on the ball, and I think we spotted it and we smelt blood and we went after them. In another game, I think we probably could have been 3 or 4 up by 30, 40 minutes in. Maybe a couple of loose passes here and there between Joseph and Ballard, but yeah, we got at them. Like I say, wingers stayed forward, kept them pressed in, did really well. It was nice to watch. It was enjoyable, and fair play to them for the way they've started. And to be fair, for most of the game, they maintained that level as well. I don't think it really dropped off too much. So yeah, it was impressive.
Yeah, Martin, before we come on to talk about the goal, Pal's probably right. I think we had 3 or 4 shots before the initial sort of breakthrough by CJ. But in terms of creating space in behind, I think Ballard had a really early chance about 5 minutes in, didn't he? Or Joseph did, sorry, where Ballard playing him in. And to be fair, I don't know about you, but I think he should have made a bit more of that. Obviously, coming a bit more to the right and missing his opportunity. But for me, it should have been 1-0 quite early doors. But the great news is with Blackpool that we're creating a lot of chances, and Ballard had them in plentiful circumstances in that first half. Obviously, we did get the goal with CJ. But what did you think about the start and the way we pressed Exeter?
Just a start full of energy, which is great. That didn't die out after a couple of minutes either. You know, sometimes under Critch you'd have 4 or 5 minutes of it, and then it would drop off. But we didn't, to be fair. You know, all the way, you know, through the first 20 minutes and to the point where CJ scored, I thought we were excellent. You know, there were signs of that obviously under Keogh at some of the other games, but it was great to see that happen. I just think you've got 2 absolute live wires in Ballard and Joseph that will run for fun, and you've got that sort of like, you know, youthful kind of enthusiasm, and they're just both of them are just a pest, aren't they? And I think they are the front 2 of choice without shot. If everyone's fit, I would play them because they're absolute nuisance. Defenders don't like pace, and if you've got 2 of them buzzing around you, but it was just great, and it just seemed to feed off the atmosphere of, you know, the new manager and people just being really up for it and just wanting to see something like that. Powell said something different, simple but different, because we haven't seen a simple formation or a team full of energy like that for such a long time. It just seems we've been just stuck in the mud a little bit with the way we've played, even at home last year.
Yeah, I agree. James, just to add to Martin's point, then we'll come on to talk about the front 2 in a minute more specifically, but the energy and the enthusiasm, you think about it, we've got the pace of CJ on the left, Apter on the right, and as we've already alluded to, the front 2, as well as some sturdiness in that centre midfield, but the defenders themselves with a fire obviously coming forward. Gabriel, obviously a fantastic attacking right back. We've got the ingredients there, maybe not the depth as the news today sort of broke through, but we've got the ingredients there to be quite an annoying side with the press. And obviously if we get our shooting boots on, we could be a real danger, especially at home.
Yeah, I agree. Like, no team is going to want to face Ballard, Joseph, CJ, and Apter, because they're all quick, they're energetic. You know, who's going to want to play against them, whether we've got the ball and we're attacking, or whether they've got the ball and we're pressing them. If they're not resistant to that press, they're going to find it really hard. And then, yeah, it's unfortunate about Norburn and Evans because they've been top quality as well. But yeah, Evans has been unbelievable this year. I think he's been amazing. And then the back 4, yeah, what more can you ask for, really? I think Gabriel has been excellent since he came back, and Afire has obviously had the top quality debut that we know he had.
Yeah, for sure, pal. The man that gets a lot of criticism, obviously, Mr. CJ Hamilton. He doesn't score and assist a terrific amount, of course, through the years. I think we worked out less than sort of 30 over his time here. But he also, in games like this, also pops up with an important goal or an important assist, so he comes good. The opportunity fell to him in fairly bizarre circumstances. You can say catastrophic defending from the Exeter back line because he lets it bounce, and anytime you let it bounce, you've got a player behind you. A scuffed, a purposeful finish, whatever it was a volley that sent it through the defender's legs and into the back of the net. And absolutely, at this point where Blackpool usually start fast and we don't always get the first goal, do we? So I think Tomo said on comms, the fact that it's going to settle this side and the way we were playing, the way we were pressing, that goal at that time in the 19th minute was probably the perfect point for us to go 1-0 up. As we didn't take the chances before, it could have been one of those games which can continue to sort of bite us in the arse a little bit. But the goal came at a perfect time from a Gabriel throw-in, a bounce and a volley into the goal. It was a nice finish in the end. It wasn't nice on the eye as well. And that wasn't the most powerful volley, but it was a decent goal. Yeah,
I'm not going to give him too much credit because I firmly believe that he scuffed that. And he's slightly fortunate that it went in. But no, it's a goal. And like I say, to be fair, he does seem to pop up at quite important times with the odd goal here and there, doesn't he? With CJ, what you see is what you get. He's an athlete, isn't he? He runs up and down. He's not overly technical. He's got pace to burn, and we failed to use it really for most of last season and into this season as well. So it was nice to see us sort of play into his strengths. He still needs 4 or 5 attempts to be able to pull off a cross and actually make connection with it. But he's going to get those chances because he's so fast. So yeah, I don't mind it. When he's on that left side, he does the job, and he's going to stretch defenders. And more importantly, to be fair, fullbacks are going to be shitting themselves, aren't they? Because no one wants to play against that sort of pace, especially at this level. But yeah, like I say, perfect time for the goal, because in another game or under the previous management, we probably wouldn't have got that goal, and then we probably would have gone on to concede. So it's nice to see us take the chance and get the first goal and go ahead and crack on from there, really.
He'd have been too busy at left back, to be fair to him. So it's nice to see him advance up the pitch, isn't it? So it's nice to see him in the box as well, obviously. Being on the wings, it was nice to see him drift in the box as well. So often wingers can stay out wide, but it's nice to see him drift in the box and try and get on the end of a cross or an end of a throw. So fair play to him. That's obviously a goal in the cup, a couple of goals in the cup, and 3 and 2 for him as well. And long may it continue. Just going through some comments here. Tony said, great first half, players well up for it. Yeah, I completely agree. Richard was great first half. CJ much better in his right position. Ballard and Joseph linked up well. And the new guy, a fire at the back, was a machine. So much more energy than under Critch. Started by Keogh and hopefully carried on by Brucey. Energy is probably the pivotal word, isn't it, James, when it comes to that first half or sort of the first. I want to talk about that when we talk about the formation in a minute. So we will continue to talk about the system and our energy. We pressed like animals at times. The first half, Joseph gives nothing up. Yeah, he was absolutely so important. First half was quality. 40 fluffed it and got lucky from the North Stand view, but it was a good finish. Kurt said he does hit it flush as well. Yeah, I think he does kind of place it. Nonetheless, it's hit the back of the net. So we had a goal to celebrate, of course. I do want to talk about Joseph and Ballard. We've already kind of alluded to it, Martin, but as strike partnerships goes, I think we should have been 3 or 4-0 up in that first half, and Ballard has an opportunity where he slams it straight at the keeper. Joseph has an opportunity right at the start, and then after the first goal, after we talk about this, Joseph has a really good chance on the far right-hand side of the box, doesn't he, where he screws it wide. You're probably talking 3 or 4 clear-cut chances that we made in that first half an hour. We kind of said, or I kind of said on X, will we rue going sort of only keeping that 1 goal lead, and we eventually did, of course, which we'll come on to a bit later. Is it something you're concerned about, the fact we're not scoring goals, or are you more on the side of those two are creating chances for themselves? Because one thing, in my opinion, which is excellent with those two, is they're reading each other's runs and they're making different kind of runs for defenders to think about. And 3 or 4 times when we caught them on the break, you had Hamilton obviously left, Apt to right, but those two in the middle sort of breaking the defence down. And that created loads of space in behind, which on another day, like Powell said, it could have been 3 or 4-0. So are you on the side of happy that we're creating those chances? Are you on the side of caution in terms of we need to be scoring more goals?
No, I'm always more confident or more sort of positive about it when people are getting into positions to miss, and you have to create the chances. And I'm just confident that those guys will score goals. And Joseph just didn't look like he looks 10 times the player from last season, and that probably is because he got a pre-season under his belt, and it could be that the previous managers left and he has more belief in himself because he looks a totally different player. He looks like a unit as well. He looks super fit. The finishing will come, and they're both very young as well. But I do think I would back these guys to get to goal scoring positions every week and score at some point. It's not like they haven't scored either. They both got goals to the name this season, so they will carry on scoring. There are some strikers where you think, well, they're there, but they never really look like getting into a position to score sometimes, and they won't carry on missing chances. They will, we will batter somebody in the next few weeks. It could be tomorrow night, but it's more likely to be someone like Burton. I just think we will batter somebody. We will be 3-0 up at half time, like we should have been on today, because they were terrified of those two. They were all 4 the front 4. They were terrified of them Exeter. They didn't know what hit them for the first sort of half an hour or so. So no, I'm confident that they'll score goals. It just gives me a lot of confidence that they will actually finish those chances eventually. No doubt about it in my mind.
James, those two, like Martin said, when we start to score goals, the goals will come, so to speak. But both those two, in terms of being a strike partnership, seem to work really well. And as time goes on, then they'll only get better, hopefully. But the great thing about Blackpool at the moment, I can't believe I'm saying this, we've got loads of options off the bench once again, because as we saw in the first half, when Ballard got injured, we can bring on the likes of Rhodes, and Beasley can come on as well. But we maybe in January, if we had a bit of quality to there in and around there, we've got sort of a front 5 or 6 which can really hurt teams as well. But I think those two, considering they haven't played a lot together, I know they played in a free with Fletcher as well, who's got to come back. We've got loads of different types of options as well. And what impressed me most about Joseph, he seemed to lead the line really well. He won 5 out of 7 aerial duels. He won 9 duels in total, and he didn't stop all game. And it was the chance I think I was alluding to after the goal was, I think Husband plays it up to him. He flicks on a header and he puts Ballard in behind, doesn't he? And he slams it straight at the keeper. If that goes in a minute after we scored the first goal, the roof would have come off Bloomfield Road. But it was excellent to see the concentration, and immediately after kickoff we had the opportunity. But when was the last time we saw a long ball from Husband that hit his man? That was flicked on by Joseph, flicked on by a striker. I know Fletcher's been decent in the air, but that was a fantastic header to put him in behind the defence, and he's got the pace to bring himself away, and he should have finished it really, shouldn't he?
Yeah, I think Joseph and Ballard, we've only seen them in a pair like this one time, but they looked great. It's exactly what you want from a front two in League One. Both really hard working. They're making runs, actually moving for the ball. I think a lot of last year everything felt so static, whereas they seem to be moving for each other and trying to create angles. And that header that you alluded to was really good. And yeah, I think in terms of the point of scoring goals, we are actually scoring quite a lot of goals. Like we scored 2 this week. It was 2 against Wickham. Was it 4 against Cambridge? Like since Critch went, we're scoring goals. I personally think the biggest problem has been letting in too many goals, particularly stupid goals. For me, if we can cut out the stupid goals, we just keep making the chances that we're making, those guys are going to score. Ballard's going to score goals. Like they're all going to score goals. I think we'll be all right for goals. I think actually the key person for that really is Evans. Like he's really making the whole thing tick. If he's injured, I personally think we're in big trouble, and that's where you'll see the problems. But yeah, those two up front, if they keep working together, they're going to score goals. I don't think that's going to be a problem for us.
We'll talk about the system overall then, pal, because it's been a long time. I appreciate Keogh played 4-3-3 and other formations 3-4-3. In your opinion, now I don't want to take anything away from Bruce because we'll come on to him a bit later on, but is he the front man? Is he the one doing the interviews? Is he the one sort of taking, the fall if we don't do well, and taking the praise when we do well? But we saw on Saturday something quite unique, which you haven't seen at Bloomfield Road or any stadium really in a while. So during the warm-up, I think Dobby took the forwards, didn't he? Keogh took the defenders and Agnew took the midfielders. They all took separate training sessions now. Do you reckon Bruce is given instructions what he wants, or give their own influences on the team? And they obviously give them all the set of instructions. They didn't sort of get instructed as a team, but they knew exactly what they wanted to do on the day. And I thought too many cooks might spoil the broth when it comes to the coaching side. But if you think about it, when they went for drinks about 20 minutes into the half, or just before or just after the goal, I think it was, Keogh took some players aside, Dobby took some players aside, and Brucey was shouting some instructions to the defenders as well. And it seems to work really well. And I was concerned it might be a bit of overbearing with too many leaders in that team. But Brucey seems to get him in order, and obviously they took instructions on really well, because we conceded a fair few shots, don't get me wrong, but it was nothing silly like we've experienced in recent weeks.
No, I think it's all probably Bruce masterminding it and giving out his instructions and working out in the week, and then he's dishing out what he wants to Keogh, to Dobby, to Agnew, and they're then going to their respective assigned players. I think Bruce is too experienced to just sort of sat off. I think he wants to be involved. You can sort of see that from his interviews as well. He's enjoying having that buzz back, and he's said how many times he wants to be involved. I looked over a few times during the game as well when the ball was in play, and you could see Bruce constantly walking up and down his technical area and barking instructions at the players. So yeah, I think he's very, very much hands-on. I think he knows what he wants. I think he'll make that very clear to his coaches that are working under him. I think everyone will just know the jobs under him. I think, obviously, we mentioned about silly goals. I think that's going to be one of the things that'll go out, because I don't think he'll stand for that, and that's the sort of thing that he'll probably have highlighted when he's watched some of our games back. But no, I think you look at a lot of teams, some of the bigger teams, obviously, where they've got bigger budgets, maybe, but it's not uncommon to see lots of coaches on the bench and lots of orders being given out, and I've got no problem with it, especially if it's going to work. So Keogh knows how to defend, Dobby knows how to attack. It's obviously worked first game in, so long may it continue.
Yeah, it could have been, as we've already alluded to, 4 or 5, couldn't it? And it could have been the perfect start. Well, it was the perfect start anyway, but it could have been more comfortable, should we say. Tony said it's a perfect setup. And like we said when we were kind of shell-shocked Martin, it feels like the perfect setup. We still can't believe when he does interviews that Steve Bruce is standing there. Regardless of his age, Martin, he is somewhat of a football sort of celebrity, isn't he? If you think about his career and where he's been, of course, and we've all sort of gone through that here, the fact that he's our manager, but when he stands there and gives interviews, it still doesn't feel quite real to me. I know he's had his downs, like we've spoken about, but at League One, he's certainly going to be a massive influence for this side.
Well, do you know what? I've been mentioned on the podcast many times, and I think I might be listening today, but I work in Preston, I work with quite a few Preston fans, and they've said to me, I can't believe you got Steve Bruce as your manager. And I said, why? Because he's rubbish or he's old or whatever. What do you think? No, because he's really good, and we can't believe you've managed to persuade him to be your manager, because he's managed all his time in the Premier League and the Championship. Why has he come down to League One? And I was like, oh well, it's interesting when other people have an opinion about him, and when you look at it, he's only ever really managed 6 games in League One. The rest of his career has been higher. So, it is surreal to see him being our manager, with no doubt about it. And I think, as I say, I think this setup that he's got there is going to, could potentially work really well. But his age is just a number anyway. He has got 1,000 games under his belt, but as he said, football, the little subtleties and nuances of football do change, but the basics and the principles of the game don't. And I think it was Emerson Boyce, who played for us for a bit, played in Wigan, and he said he just keeps it simple, and he's a football man talking to football players who understand him and they respect him, and he respects them, and he doesn't tend to fall out with too many people in his squad. He just kind of keeps it simple, and people respect him. And if you've got that, you're halfway, aren't you, to being a good manager. And his longevity is big. You can't question it. So I think, look, it's only one game, so let's be feet on the ground. But we might end up being extremely fortunate that we got him, and that we got contacts at our club that knew him and were able to bring him in. So, the fans seem quite happy, don't they? I think he got a very good reception. So it's just surreal to look at him and you think that guy's our manager, when he's managed a few years ago, he's managing Newcastle. So it's it's weird, very weird, but promising so far, definitely.
Yeah, I think one thing you just said there is the fact that he respects players, and like I said, what we had to say about Critchley and the way he played, I still don't kind of feel like there was respect there. And I think with Bruce, Keogh and Dobby, to be fair, I think they're going to show mutual respect to the players, providing they do the work for him. And I genuinely believe if they don't, he's not afraid to make changes. And we've seen that with Pennington being dropped out of the squad, who was never a present player there. Maybe he's watched the games back and realised he was a serious problem when we were being counter-attack, and he backed off them and allowed them space in the box, etc. So he's probably told them that, I'm going to give you chances in the cup. You got to earn your spot back, and we'll chop and change the squad. We've got a lot of games to play, as Bruce said. We've got 9 in September, whatever it is, or like 15, 16 in the next 2 months or so. So the squad is naturally going to change, and obviously due to injuries, that's obviously going to chop and change as well. But Paul, I'll come back to you then. We've talked about individuals, but did Saturday being in the stadium feel different in terms of the way we set up? Was there some authority about Blackpool watching it back again? It felt like everybody knew their role really well, and bear in mind he only had 9 days with them. He said they have adapted really well to him coming in, but it almost felt like we still had a bit of ambition with a fire stepping out from the back a little bit. We still had decent attacking outlets with Gabriel down the right hand side, as well as the front sort of 4-5 we've alluded to already. But did it feel different in the way we set up? Because 4-4-2 can be fluid, in inverted commas, for those on the audio a bit later, but it also could be quite rigid at the same time. You can set up in a 4-4-2 and allow teams a lot of space, but I think Norburn and Evans did an exceptional job at handling the midfield, and I'm absolutely can't believe I'm saying this versus what I said 6 months ago, but I'm absolutely devastated to hear Norburn's out for 4 to 6 weeks, because I thought he looked a lot fitter. I thought he looked a lot more switched on. I think he looks a lot more like the player that we wanted, and Evans has brought that out on him. To lose that combination is going to hurt us massively, especially in the league. So, but going back to the question, how did the 4-4-2 feel in the stadium? Did you always feel quite comfortable being in there?
Yeah, I think I did, to be fair. I think there seemed to be a lot of intent when we were on the ball, whereas over the last sort of 12, 18 months, we were ponderous, we were slow, we messed around with it. It looked like the first thought was to either go backwards or sideways. It just looked like every time someone got the ball, they were looking up, and the people that weren't on the ball wanted to, there was people showing for the ball, and we actually looked like we knew what we wanted to do with it as well. So it was nice on that side of things, not to just see the centre backs just wanting to go back to the keeper every time, or eventually just knowing that it's going to end up just going long aimlessly. So yeah, it did feel different. I think I felt like we were in control most of the game, to be fair, which hasn't happened very often. Normally we've maybe started for the first 10, 15 minutes. But I don't think we were ever under a great deal of pressure or any sort of danger. I know obviously the equaliser eventually came, but yeah, I think the 4-4-2 works, and it's no surprise really, is it? Like I said before, it's a simple league, it's a simple formation, and when you've got players like we've got, it suits them down to the ground, and it's yielded results already, and we've got a win out of it. And yeah, I think the longer Bruce has with him on the training ground, the more everyone's going to know what they're doing, what the role is. So I think we'll only get better and better, I think, based on the first game anyway.
Yeah, I completely agree. Bison's just alluded to the fact that the formation will change now the entire midfield is injured. We'll talk about the Sheffield Wednesday team or what we'd potentially like to see, but we lose a lot of quality in Evans and Norburn, that's for sure. And hopefully Evans is not a mainstay injury like Norburn's could be. If it's tendon or hamstring, it's looking to 4 to 6 weeks, isn't it? So it's a gutter, but we've got, as Martin said to me pre-pod, that we've got options in terms of the free market potentially. Got Onaman potentially to get fit as well. He knows him, and we've got other players to come back in that midfield. So we may have to change system a little bit. We've also got other options potentially that we haven't thought of yet, which we'll come on to in a bit. But it'll be interesting to see what happens tomorrow. It's a bit of a free hit against a championship side, but it'd be nice to continue that unbeaten run. James Curtis said, how many set pieces did we score under Critch? We scored a few in the championship with Big Miles. I remember Blackburn and a few other games where we got a few goals. Weirdly, I've got a weird memory. I remember Wimbledon or at home. I think we won when Neil Marv's got a corner goal. But they're very in and out. But every corner at the moment, I think we've scored 5 or 6 under Bruce and Keogh so far, haven't we? So obviously the Wycombe game we got a set piece. Cambridge got 2 set pieces. So we are certainly creating chances from all angles. And I think someone said it down here, we're playing forward aggressive attack and football. Add to that the quality at set pieces, becoming a real dangerous outlet. And like you say, we are scoring goals, and we are scoring goals from in different ways, which is the most important part for any side, and not to rely on a Jordan Rhodes and a Karamoka Dembele. We've got like 6 or 7 different goal scorers already this season.
Yeah, like you're going to need to score goals in lots of different ways, aren't you? Because you're going to get set up against a lot of teams. Some of them are just going to sit there and do nothing. And your only way to score might be that corner or that throw in or that free kick or whatever it is. And yeah, so both our goals on Saturday were from set pieces. That CJ's came from a long throw, and the other one came from a corner. So yeah, I feel like the delivery from Evans, I've mentioned him a couple of times, but yeah, I think he's a great player. But I think his delivery for the corners has been excellent. I think Embleton has taken a couple that have been really good as well. So I don't know if it's much to do with Critch or the manager. I just think previously we were not necessarily picking great takers, and just improve the quality of the taker basically, and you get better results with that.
Yeah, I think there's quite a lot of aggression coming from corners though, because I know CJ still sits on the centre mid from corners, and that's to do with pace on the counter. I totally understand that. But there seems to be a lot more of a authority within the box as well. And I do genuinely believe it's maybe not come from the manager, but maybe the players is just a bit more free and aggressive when it comes to attacking, and not been told to sort of sit back and only put a couple in the box. I do think it comes from a bit of like freedom and happiness, and now they've been unleashed a little bit. Now I've put a comment in the chat, so you can all respond to that. But gentlemen, I just want to talk about how disgusting of a football side that Blackpool have become under Steve Bruce since he's taken over. 20 fouls from Exeter, 3 or 4 yellow cards. Blackpool 12 fouls and 7 yellows, wasn't it? We're just horrible team now, and it's good to see the shithousery come from these players. They're taking out their team purposely and winning the ball back and getting booked for it. But what did you think of the ref from Gabriel's and Joseph's yellows in the first half? It was utterly ludicrous. Gabriel's baffles me still. He shoulder barges him, then wins the ball back, and Joseph actually tackles him, and their player, I don't know if you've watched it back, but their player backs into Joseph to make him fall on top of him, and he gets booked for it as well. And they obviously handball it purposely like volleyball and don't get sent off. So one of the worst referee performances I've seen in the EFL, and certainly at Bloomfield Road.
Yeah, I mean, that's some comment as well, because we've had some diabolical referees over the years, haven't we, at Bloomfield Road? He lost complete control of the game. It looked like he just decided that every foul was going to be a yellow card. It was mind-boggling at one point.
Their tackles were like the
Gabriel and Joseph ones were probably the worst. Fair enough, the Afire one and the Norman one were probably nailed on yellow cards. Fair, yeah. They weren't great at all. But the rest of them, you struggle to convince me that they were even a foul, never mind a yellow card. I was mind-boggled, honestly. The Gabriel one, the Joseph one were bizarre. I don't think you'll see a worse yellow card all season in all 4 of the top divisions of England. In fact, in any division, pub league, anything, I don't think you'll see a soft yellow card up and down. I've said it a couple of times. I'd love to see the assessor's report on him post-game, because he was shambolic. Honestly, he was a prick.
Yeah, we can actually say that and mean it as football fans, can't we? Because he generally was horrendous. As Kurt said, the referee was a tit the entire game. The last 2 refs at home have been clowns. Yeah, I mean, even the Stockport one, so to speak, the Wickham one also. But that was for a bit of both. I think I feel for this one. Even the Exeter fans obviously you don't know what you're doing. But if I got booked, yep, fair enough. And Norburn, you could actually argue 2 good yellow cards. Then Joseph and Gabriel's yellows. Evans and Rhodes was for his tackle late on, and Tyra for time wasting. But just generally stamping your authority in the game and being an idiot and not making bad decisions is chalk and cheese between what you do as a referee, isn't it? And I respect referees highly. It's a really difficult job. But when you can physically watch Gabriel just shoulder barge and poke the ball away and then pull your card out and thinking it's a good idea, it just baffles me, and it kind of ruined the game a little bit and tainted it a little bit in terms of what he did. But
I think he actually did he not book one of our players as well for protesting against the fact that he didn't show their man the second yellow for the handball as well?
I think that was Evans.
I think it was Evans, and Husband was sort of in his ear, weren't they? Quite rightly as well, and he just completely bottled it on that one. He played advantage, so he obviously saw the foul, but then he decided that an intentional.
That was the yellow card, wasn't
handball.
It? Yeah.
Well, yeah.
The handball. Sorry. Yeah,
he was useless.
Yeah, it was bizarre to see, and Kurt, we will absolutely talk about Fire. He was absolutely unreal after his yellow, and I think it did he said fair play. He reminded me, not that I've watched I don't watch rugby league that much, but the respect he gave the referee after his yellow, Martin. He had a chat with him, and he tapped the ref on the arm, and he kind of put his hand up, said sorry, then sort of jogged back into position. He didn't protest or anything. It was kind of nice to see a player take a yellow card with a bit of respect.
Yeah, you couldn't really argue with that one. But like we said, I think Norburn's as well, maybe. But my God, I'm sure that referee will be in the Premier League in about a year's time. He'll somehow get promoted. I mean, sooner the better. He can go and ruin their fun, because, when you've won the game and you're talking about the ref, it's a sign of how bad he was. When both sets of fans are chanting certain things at him, you know that he's been terrible, because both sides are in agreement. It doesn't happen very often, but I genuinely don't know where they get them from. I genuinely don't know whether he was on commission per card or something. It's just ridiculous, utterly ridiculous. But yeah, I did like. I noticed that with the Fire when he kind of went, yeah, fair dues, and put it on. Then you thought, oh yeah, at that point we didn't know what was going to come from the ref. We thought, yeah, fair enough. You can't really blame him for that. But what followed afterwards was just a shambles. So, but like Powell says, he'll probably get a a bonus or something, or he'll get a tap on the back from the assessors and the PGMOL or whatever. I'll have him referee Man United Man City in a few weeks' time, and he can sod off there instead of bothering us.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Yosh has got the same thoughts as you, mate. Literally word for word. Seems like the ref are on commission for yellows this weekend. But moving on, James, it was a talk and point in the podcast chat on Saturday, so to speak. It got a bit prickly when we talked about the second half, and I want to bring to the table the fact that we let Exeter in quite a bit in the second half. It wasn't a case of they were relentlessly attacking us, but as time went on in the second part of the second half, they started to control the ball a little bit more, and they did dominate the shots. I think they had 10 or 11 shots in that second half. Tested Tyra obviously with a decent save in his near post. I think Blackpool tweeted it or posted it, going in the bottom right hand corner, wasn't it? It was probably a routine save, but a decent save for Tyra to settle him into the second half. But we still let chances at the back, despite looking fairly solid. We did let a few chances and then control the ball a little bit more. Is that a concern for you, or did you think it was a part of the occasion, Bruce's first game, and a bit of a hangover in terms of where Blackpool have been? Like you said, we've conceded stupid goals, 8 or 9 goals in the last 3 or 4 games as well. So as much as we're scoring, we are conceding, and we didn't concede until obviously late on in the game. But was that a concern for you, or did you kind of expect it due to the last few weeks?
I think it is expected, but it is also a concern, right? Like, I think the team is quite brittle mentally, or the squad is quite weak mentally. They give away a lot of goals that are just needless, and I think we need to cut that out, or we're going to struggle basically. But there's no reason why things can't change now, right? We've gone on, we've got the win. Bruce has come in, changed that mentality, get them up the pitch a bit, not quite so deep, control the ball a bit more. Less nerves. I think one thing was maybe Rhodes coming on. He himself was fine. It's just he can't press like Ballard and Joseph do. And when you lose that bit of intensity up front, it lets them out and it pushes us back. If you want to have Rhodes on the pitch, you need to be attacking. You saw it the last 5 minutes. He's good when we are attacking and we're getting the ball in the box. Rhodes is at his best when he's either heading it or shooting from inside the box. When we're dropping deep like we were doing and he's just running around aimlessly, it's just never going to be that effective. I think if you're trying to hold on to a lead and you're going to be defending, Rhodes isn't the guy to be bringing on. Don't get me wrong, I don't think Beasley's the guy either. I think he's not very good at all. But I just feel like if you want to keep the pressure on, you've got to make the right substitutes. Maybe he didn't have great options to bring on to keep that intense press, but I think that's where we lost a little bit. Lost a little bit of the press, dropped a little bit deeper, and just that slight brittleness from the hangover from Critchley made life hard for us.
I promise you, in the chat, James can't see what others are typing because Bison's, just before he started speaking, said Ballard going off was an issue. And then Mike said the same. Rhodes wasn't carrying us anymore in the same way, Powell. And that's just the way that football goes, I suppose, sometimes when you haven't got that relentless pressure. And you actually said, I think it was around the 60th, 70th minute when Rhodes come on, or maybe a bit earlier on because of a back issue. We actually kept that press up. They didn't really control any of the ball until Ballard went off, and we did lose that momentum and that consistency where we're kind of in that well-oiled machine, just going in pressing in stages, especially those front two. And Joseph kind of had to do the legwork for a couple of strikers when he went off. And I think it's a really fair point from Bisons and James and Mike in the chat that we lost that consistency, didn't we? And therefore they probably sniffed blood a little bit because they're quite a fit side, Exeter, with some technically good players. I appreciate they haven't got the quality throughout, and that probably showed on the day, but there was moments where they tested the keeper and got him behind a few times.
Yeah, I think if you're looking to try and maintain that pressing up front, I think although he lacks a little bit of quality, I've not got a major problem with him. I quite like Beasley for his work rate especially. So I think if you were looking to bring someone to replace Ballard's press, Beasley probably would have been my preferred option personally. But yeah, like I say, bringing Rose on, you just lose that slight edge in the press, and he's not, I mean, what is he, 33, 34? So he's not going to have the legs to be able to do that. He's never been that type of striker throughout his whole career. So to expect him to do it in the latter stages of his career he's not going to do it. It's not going to happen. But yeah, maybe it needs a bit of a tweak of the system if Rhodes is coming on. Maybe we just need to work that out. But obviously that'll come. Like I say, Bruce only had 9 days with him, so maybe he'll work that out as time goes on and how best to utilise Rhodes as he comes on, or whether he starts and whatnot. But yeah, I think there's a solution there. It's just maybe, like I say, an overall lack of depth is maybe punishing us a little bit. So maybe we can get through to January and add a couple of players in January, and then see where we go from there.
Yeah, and as time went on, talking of that player Rhodes, his foul on the left-hand side or right-hand side of the box, depending which way you're looking at it, obviously brought a free kick a bit further on from where they took it, Martin. They sort of brought the ball in a few yards, which arguably made the angle tighter for the player, but whether that suited him or not, obviously, we don't know. But initially, I think there's a few people in the chat, potentially James, you're one of them, said that's Tyra's mistake. I'm not sure if he did. It might have been someone else in the chat, but a few people said it was Tyra's mistake. But looking back at the goal, let us know in the comments what you think as well. It was an absolute worldie that they scored, and people said the goal was coming in terms of the way they had the ball and the chances they had, but Tyra wasn't really tested in a one-on-one situation or from long range. It was more sort of snapshots of them getting the ball. So whether they deserved it, you could probably argue 50-50 whether they deserve to score. But the goal itself, if he does mean it, is an absolute worldie. From the angle from behind the goal, it looks like an absolutely beautiful goal, if I'm honest. It's curling outwards and then just dips into the goal. And if it's a cross for someone to poke it home, it's perfect. And if it's a shot on goal, Tyra can't move because it goes out before it comes in and he can't react to it. In my opinion, it's an absolutely sensational goal.
Was that to me? Sorry. Yeah, I wasn't sure at the time, Venice. I don't think I said anything in the chat, but I don't know. You don't really want your goalie getting beaten from there, but at the same time, it was a great shot. I wouldn't be able to say it was definitely his fault. Like, we've seen a lot worse goals. Like, was it Wickham where Richard O'Donnell basically threw the ball in the net? So it's definitely an improvement on that.
Martin, sorry, the initial question was to you. Sorry, James, but yeah, a lot of people seems to think Bison said nobody on the post. To be fair, so great shout from a set piece. Maybe someone could have been on the post. Poor positioning, but Tyra had little chance anyway. Their lad won't ever do that again. I think it's a really fair shout. Richard, of course, in the chat said it was a great finish. Tyra probably couldn't have done much about it, even if he was standing close to that post. But like I said, I was critical initially, but I generally just think it's one of those things that won't happen again. Like I said, 99 times out of 100, it probably just sails wide or the keeper catches it.
Yeah, I think it's a bit harsh to blame. It's funny, we say things and they agree with us. It's great. Phil Holmes just said great goal, very harsh to blame Tyra. And yeah, I agree. I think it was. I'm not convinced he went for it. I just think he was trying to whip that as to the back stick, because when you 88 minute or whatever, and you're just trying to deliver quality, not trying to go for a world. It's all right when you're 3-0 up, but I genuinely think he was trying to put that in the mixer for someone, and he's just hit it too well. It happens. It's a freak, but it goes back to the fact that had we finished our chances in the first half, it would have been a consolation goal, an equaliser, wouldn't it? You know what I mean? It's all endemic of not scoring enough chances, which hopefully next time we will batter somebody, as I said. So, yeah, it's one of those things. It's one of those things. It seems to happen to us a lot, but the great thing is that we showed a lot of balls and a lot of resilience to say, right, okay, we go again.
Yeah, and I think if you also think about the last few weeks with Cambridge and the mentality and what we showed in terms of resilience and how we somewhat crumbled and players like Evans losing the ball, the defenders not waking up to sort of any passes in behind and O'Donnell being just generally quite atrocious in that game. The Wickham game where we switched off and allowed them in with Pennington on the floor and stuff like that. You've got to think although allowed them to have the ball and a few more chances in the second half, like I said, 10 shots in the second half from them, we weren't really tested ridiculously well. And I think on any given day, like you said, it would have been 2 or 3-0 at the time. I appreciate that at the time it wasn't, and we could be sat here and said ifs, buts, and maybes. But I generally think in this situation and this example, we were good enough to win the game, and it was one of those freak goals potentially. Like I say, they do seem to happen against Blackpool, but we obviously did get the winner. Powell, the reaction from both the crowd and the players was exceptional. I know I'm just using that word because we scored, but the barrage on their goal when obviously the initial Rhodes shot went out. We had a corner, went out for another corner. Then we had the Rhodes chance, which fell to him, which actually I thought at the time was about a minute after they scored. I thought that was going to be slammed into the bottom right-hand corner, but he didn't find his shooting boots, and it was a fairly decent save from the keeper who narrowed the angle really well. But I just want to talk about the quality of corners that came in. I know James said it as well. The quality of take has changed since last season, but those 3 corners before the ball went out of play were literally on top of the keeper. They obviously had the one where they headed it over the bar. which led to the goal as well. But the quality of those corners, bear in mind, during the game, I think we had 10 or 11 corners during the game, and about 5 of them were in that last 3 minutes. So we did absolutely pepper the goal and probably deserved to get that goal in the end. But the quality of corner, as well as committing men in the box, was refreshing to see, wasn't it?
Yeah, I can't remember the last time we had that sort of intensity when we were chasing the equaliser and just absolutely peppered a goal, like you say. It was just relentless, and I felt like the goal was coming, whereas maybe previously I thought we'll sort of huff and puff and we won't really get anywhere. But yeah, and then the outpouring of emotion around me anyway, with me and my mates and everyone else around us, sort of jumping on each other and celebrating. I haven't seen scenes like that inside Bloomfield Road or even in the away end for quite a while. So it's refreshing. I think the whole club's had a bit of a reset with Bruce coming in. But yeah, I think that intensity that's been missing, and it was nice to see. Like I say, the delivery on the corners was unbelievable. Evans, obviously from one side, and then Embleton was coming over as well and taking them, and it looked like every single player in the box wanted to win it as well. Whereas maybe before we'd maybe been a little bit soft and maybe sort of stood off a little bit, but it looked like they were willing to just put their heads anywhere and put them in, and they wanted to win the ball. And that man James Hudman popped up again, and Blackpool's top scorer. I think getting 20 quid's on in to be League One top scorer.
Oh, he'll be less than evens now, mate. Richard has said all 4 corners were mustard when Hubby scored. I went mentally. I think, look, as a win against Exeter on paper sounds, for all football fans, let's not get too carried away. But the release and the emotion that we've had since the last, season or so, and I'm not saying we've been in the mire with Critch, but it's just been boring, hasn't it? And Pal, you've just said it. It was relentless. When I was watching the game, it was like, oh my God, no, oh no, yeah, oh, because I think Rhodes could have scored on the line. He could have scored with a shot, and he could have scored with another header that Yefeko blocked on which we called for a penalty, but it wasn't. It went out for another corner, and he blocked it on the line. So he had the shot, the header, and the one cleared off the line all within about a minute. Then we had the header that nearly popped in with Gabriel. He nodded it over the bar, and then James, we had the goal. Could feel the goal coming. The crowd got right behind the team after conceding and practically dragged the ball into the net. Really clever header from Rhodes. Easy for them to say. Rhodes showed experience putting the ball back into the mix, and Hubby was brave with the header as Gabriel's boot was very close. Great corner by Embo. Now, I called it a Hogdini moment because the ball got pushed into the box, and Rhodes could have easily had a shot on goal, but he's not placed probably right enough to score a header, because there's a couple of players ahead of him as well. So to put it back into the mix, as Mike said, showed great experience. 1, the delivery was superb. 2, the header from Rhodes is absolutely brilliant. And potentially another player doesn't do it, plenty another player does, but let's call it experience. A superb header back, and the way, to be fair to her husband, the way he met that was genuinely like Rhodes would finish as well. And aesthetically, it looked like an absolutely superb goal, because he dives in, the keeper is in full air for it, but he's already gone past him before. And obviously the North, what a better end to score at, with them obviously going wild as well. It was a great moment for Blackpool, a great moment for Bruce, and a great moment for the fans.
Yeah, we haven't had that sort of feeling in a long time. So to actually go out and win a game, to do it in that sort of style is fantastic. It's never going to feel better than that, is it? So what more can you ask for? It's just great to see them getting forward instead of just giving up and thinking, oh, we're not going to win this. They just got on with it, got in the box, delivered some quality, and scored a great goal.
Yeah, I think it's something like 40 or 50 shots in the last 4 games as well, Martin, averaging double digits, which we're not used to shots on target, let alone sort of 8 or 9 shots on target over a couple of games as well. So we're certainly being treated to playing players in a natural position. Before we talk about the last couple of things, Pal, I just want to talk about one last person, and that is, of course, Afire on his debut. Just describe in your own words what he did well for you, because when I put the comment out about obviously his stats in the game, which was 42 out of 42 accurate passes, 100% successful dribbles, 4 out of 4 tackles won, which was the most in the game, 2 interceptions, 6 ball recoveries, 7 clearances, 9 duels won, only 2 duels lost, 7 out of 8 ground duels won, and 2 out of 3 aerial duels won. He only committed 1 foul, which was the yellow card, and bear in mind that came after 10 minutes. He's 21. Yes, he comes from the Premier League, but he was nothing short of outstanding regardless of the opposition. What did he do well for you?
Everything. There wasn't really anything that you could fault from him. He was calm on the ball. He passed with intent. He stepped into the midfield to push us up when we was sort of on the attack. He wasn't just passing for the passing's sake between the two centre halves with Casey. He was looking to go forward and looking to complete a pass. He was wrapping them into the midfielders. Won his headers, like you say, tackles. He just looked like he couldn't be beaten. I think I said it in the chat as well. He reminded me a little bit of Dujon Sterling. He had that sort of same build. He just looked really calm on the ball. His ability with the ball at feet as well. He just looked so comfortable. He was brilliant. I think at one point, I think it might have been the first half where we had 3 players attacking and trying to take the ball off him. He just danced around him like he was just taking the mick out of them. And he just knocked one of them and off he trotted with the ball and off he went. He was brilliant. Yeah, he's a breath of fresh air. And to be honest with you, it looks like he's been playing for years at this level and probably too good for us. If anything, maybe a little bit like some of like Dembele was last season. So yeah, I think if he carries on like, he's got a very bright future ahead of him because, like I say, he's still only 21, so he's got a lot to learn still. But long may that continue because he was sensational. He looks like he's probably going to be one of the first names on the team sheet if he carries on playing like that.
Yeah, luckily his cup tied Tuesday, so everyone can forget about him, and then just he can fade into the background again because, yeah, like you said, his level was above potentially League One game in, of course, but it's a hard thing to do. It kind of brought back not it's the same page, of course, but when Charlie Adam played the last sort of X amount of games, not needing to get booked, he played that obviously 80 minutes to that level, still putting in tackles, and like I say, 7 out of 8 ground duels won. He still put himself about. He wasn't shying away from it. And as you say, when he brought forward, he reminded me of Elkan Baggett, to be fair. When Elkan Baggett came in against Burton, took a touch forward, but he immediately wanted to get forward. There was no turning back and giving the ball to the goalkeeper or the right back. He was always finding the pass to Apter or something like that. So hopefully he can continue. The lad looks composed for a young lad. He's calm, doesn't panic, composed on the ball, and great pass, and in the air, solid as well. Yeah, absolutely agree. And when Baggett comes back, I didn't even mention Baggett earlier. I don't think. Yeah, we've got 4 or 5 centre backs that can play there, and and fingers crossed defensively this season we can continue to be quite strong. Got crammed a lot in the first 57 minutes, Martin, but we obviously have a game tomorrow, and it's a game that Bisons has alluded to. He doesn't want to burst the bubble positivity, but Evans and Orban being out is a game changer for those that haven't read the news in the Gazette, and the news are coming out of Blackpool that Orban has potentially got a hamstring or tendon issue, which is going to keep him out for a month or so. And of Evans, I didn't read Evans info. I've been working quite a long shift today, but might only be a few days, Martin, but obviously not going to be playing tomorrow.
Yeah, I think it's a foot injury, isn't it? So hopefully that's not as bad. I suppose as well, for Saturday you could potentially bring a fire in and he can play midfield, can't he, as well? So that's I guess that's an option. But no, I mean I take what Bisons is saying. He's right, because there's no one else on the team who does what Evans does, and Norburn's obviously been improving in the last couple of weeks since they've changed at the club. There are replacements. I mean, as people have alluded to in some of the lineups, if Embleton can play central midfield and Carey can't, they're just not the same quality as we're losing. That's the problem. I don't think he can really change the formation too much, because if we went 5-3-2, you're going to need another central midfielder. So I think he's going to be the same, but we're just going to have to accept limitations and maybe accept that tomorrow. I mean, tomorrow is a kind of one-off. I don't like the phrase free hit, but I think in these circumstances, maybe it feels more of a free hit than it would do if we had everybody fit, because we're not expecting too much potentially from the 2 replacements. But I just think we have to. But this is where a good manager earns his money, isn't it? They need a plan B. They need to know where how to play when certain players are out, instead of putting all the eggs in one basket like we've done so many times in the past. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. But with the caveat that if we don't get through, it's like, well, we won't lose sleep over it if we don't get through. It's just an opportunity for people to give the worth and get minutes into them.
Arguably, to caveat that, though, it could be quite an important game because we might need to go into Saturday playing a similar system. So for me, the performance matters more than the result. But if we win and play badly, I'll be a bit more nervous going to Charlton, who evidently play a lot of aerial football. So if we get the ball down, we can hurt them. They're a big side. Now, Nathan Jones is not a mug as a manager, but I do think if we attack them a bit like we did against Exeter, we can hurt them. I think them and Rotherham had a game and the ball in the first half spent over 25 minutes in the air, something ridiculous like that. So it's going to be a different game, of course, and they set up for the opposition. But I'm certainly excited to see what we can do against Charlton, but also a bit pessimistic just due to losing those two. And I've said it on the first few pods of this season, pal, that if we haven't got a centre midfielder, we're severely going to be lacking, not one on the counter, but two, just being able to control games, because hopefully the foot injury doesn't keep him out for ages. But Evans is the best player, in my opinion, centre midfielder, or top three in the league. I think 20 key passes forward already. His delivery and set pieces is exceptional, and he's an important metronome to this team, as James already said. Without him, we don't potentially play the best we do, and it's probably a bit like that last season. If we had him last season with Karamoko, we'd probably find ourselves comfortably in the playoffs with a bit of freedom and attacking. So it's a big miss, but going into tomorrow, we're going to need sort of maybe to change system or bring some players in. Now, there is the argument that Martin Sedefire can play centre mid. He's played there before, and Ashworth played there for Wales under 21s as well. So he's an athlete, Ashworth. He's a fit guy. He's quite strong. And there are options there, as Martin's saying. We could unlock a gem or a system which does work. So let's get people's thoughts on the team. So A has said Tyra, Gabriel, Casey Pennington, Ashworth, Embo, Carey, Finnegan if fit, Coulson, Beasley and Joseph. O'Donnell, Gabriel, Pennington, Casey, Ashworth, Coulson playing further up, I assume, Embleton, Carey, CJ, Raptor, Rhodes and Beasley. Saturday, Tuesday are more important. We need to wrap up both Joseph and Ballard for those games. Yeah, I think Josh is right. Ballard won't probably get risked just due to his back. Would you play Joseph tomorrow, pal, considering how much he ran on Saturday? But we need to kind of keep the energy up top with Rhodes and Beasley. It won't have that much energy, and if we lose a bit of bite in midfield, it could be quite a stagnant game. Obviously, if we bring a bit of fitness in with Coulson, it could be a much better game for us against Sheffield Wednesday.
I don't think he'll play Joseph. I think in the Gazette, Bruce alluded to the fact that he wants to see the rest of the squad, so I think there'll be quite a lot of changes overall anyway. You're probably looking at Beasley and Rhodes up front, aren't you? I would imagine. Like I say, you've got Coulson, you've got Ashworth there. I'll probably surprise a few now that listen to this as well, because you've got Carey in there, and some of his better performances have come when he's played as a centre mid rather than playing that number 10 role, which I don't think he can do at all. I think maybe in that midfield too, in a 4-4-2, he's going to have a little bit more time on the ball. He's going to be slightly deeper, and he might just have a little bit more time, which he seems like he sometimes wants when he's in that 10 role. So I wouldn't be overly concerned about seeing Carey in that role, to be honest with you. And you're probably looking at pairing him up with someone like Embleton maybe, or with Ashworth, like you say, or a Fire. But yeah, I think overall we'll probably see 8, 9, maybe even 10 changes to the team, I'd imagine, just so Bruce can get a look at the whole squad in a match game environment.
Yeah, James, that won't really matter, will it? The fact that we'll make lots of changes. I think the principles and the basics of football, like Martin said, Bruce is good at, is the most important thing for me. I've always said, like, even with Critch, if we show fight, determination and just playing for the badge, I know it's very, cliche in football, but if we do just generally play for the badge and we can, make things happen on the pitch, I think the most important thing is we give Sheffield Wednesday a good game. Doesn't have to necessarily mean attacking them relentlessly, but as long as we see some fight and organisation, some hope for Saturday, the momentum can carry on, can't it? Because now, since Cambridge that were unbeaten, 5 games in it, 4 or 5 games. So it's really important for me to keep that momentum up of not losing, but also just the performances are gradually getting better and better. So for me, that's why Tuesday or tomorrow is so important.
Yeah, look, we just have to go out and do our best. I actually think it'll be really tough because we have those injuries, we have those people that we don't necessarily want to risk. So we have some other people coming in, a team that isn't necessarily as cohesive. It's going to be really hard, but all you can ask is they all go out and just do their best. We make it hard for them. We don't want to lose 5-0, do you know what I mean? We want to go out, we want to play as well as we can. We want to give them a real game, and if we win, then great. And if we lose, having done our best, then that's what it is. I think it'd be a good opportunity for Bruce to see those people he hasn't seen. So people like Carey, etc. Like I don't really personally see if Carey will do that well centre mid, but I guess we could see. But it'd be good. I think we need Coulson in the team personally. So it'd be good if he can play tomorrow night. If he has a good game, Bruce sees him play, and then maybe he gets in the team for Saturday. I think that'd be great. So it gives those people that aren't in the team a chance to play, and hopefully that sort of motivation will produce a good performance.
Yeah, Tony said we're at home. Sheffield Wednesday aren't that good. Chance for an upset. I think they've sold out. I don't know if it's sold out, pal, their allocation.
Yeah, 2,100 they sold out.
So
We've
they're going to
sold
make
just over 2,000 as of Saturday, I think it was.
Yeah, so we need a few more home fans, obviously, to create a bit of atmosphere. But undoubtedly, they always bring a loud noise, and it should make for a good game. I know it's on the telly as well, but it's a chance for us after Saturday. I think a few more fans have bought their tickets, and a real chance to progress. And the fourth round's not to be sniffed at, Martin. And I personally want to go through. I want a decent away tie that we can, plenty play our strongest 11 at and give them a go. At the end of the day, it's what being in the lower leagues, unfortunately, is it kind of makes your season playing teams like that as well. So a real good chance for us, of course. But I think I'm going to call that pod, gents. I think it's been a decent show. Got a lot. I talked about a lot, and I'm excited to see what tomorrow brings, and obviously what Saturday brings as Bruce's time comes on. He's certainly going to have his influence on the team as time goes on. And as we've already discussed, providing Evans's injury isn't too bad, I think we've got the squad here to push us through to January, Martin, where we hopefully will be in and around the mix as we analyse performances in weeks to come.
Absolutely, yeah. I think there's just a heck of a lot more optimism, isn't there? There's more optimism about the place, and I just think we're going to get some solid results and stay around where we need to be. And I'm sure that there's promises about adding to the squad in January, without a shadow of a doubt. And we just seem to have had the oomph put back into us all as a fan base, don't we, as well? So I'm going to start looking forward to every Blackpool game at the moment, which is brilliant, because it was so sterile on it last year. Even though we got good results, it was so sterile and a bit yawnsome. But this is it might be a bit of a ride. That's when we're at our best, isn't it? When we're when it's not boring. We're not a boring football club. Never have been. It's not in our DNA. So,
absolutely not.
Yeah, good stuff.
James, thanks for joining us for the first live show, mate.
Thanks for having me. It's great.
Pal, as always, generally big thanks for giving up your time.
No, thanks for having me again, mate. Hope everyone's enjoyed seeing my lovely looking face tonight as well. Send everyone to sleep with pleasant dreams, won't it?
Gonna need to have a cup of camel tea after this, I think. Martin, as always, thank you, buddy.
Yeah, cheers. It's been brilliant. Simon Sadler will have screenshotted this, Ryan, and he'll be there with his dartboard.
He'll have his pinned above his headboard, won't he, in his bedroom?
Absolutely.
It's
he loves you, really.
A wanted list. I think both podcasts are on it. Look, we will be seeing you. We got a busy week this week. Wednesday, we are joined by Charlton Live, who are an excellent podcast to help us preview Saturday's game. And on Thursday, we will be exclusively, I haven't put it out yet, but we will be interviewing former Seasider Mark Cullen, who obviously played under a difficult time for the Seasiders, but played a really big part in the history as well. And he sort of spoke to me and said he'd like to come on and give his thoughts as well. So I'm really looking forward to catching up with him, and that will be out in video format as well as audio. But from all of us at the It's Not Orange podcast, thank you so much for joining us for the first live show, and we'll see you again soon.